Welcome back to episode 9 of the History of AI podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the future of AI, how AI is reshaping industries. And, I was really excited to get into this with you today because you shared a bunch of interesting articles and research. And
Yeah, definitely a hot topic these days.
it really is. I mean, it's not just something we see in, sci-fi movies anymore. AI is like right here, right now.
Exactly. And it's impacting pretty much every industry you can think of.
Yeah. And that's what I kind of wanted to dive into today. Like, where do we even begin?
Well, your notes mention healthcare quite a bit.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to. I mean, when you hear about Google's DeepMind achieving 99% accuracy in breast cancer detection,
It's incredible, right? Like almost exceeding human capabilities in some aspects of diagnostics.
and then you've got things like in silico medicine designing a fibrosis drug in a fraction of the time it usually takes.
And robot-assisted surgery becoming more and more common.
It's like mind-blowing advancements, but
But there's always another
fun.
side to the coin, right?
yeah, like what about the people? What about the jobs?
Exactly. We need to think about the potential for job displacement. Radiologists, pathologists, for example, their roles could shift dramatically.
It's almost like a dance, this whole thing,
Hmm.
between human expertise and AI capabilities, trying to find that balance.
Right, and finding solutions that work for everyone.
So what are some of those solutions? What are people doing to adapt?
Well, some institutions are taking a really proactive approach, like Johns Hopkins. They're training radiologists to manage AI tools.
So they're not being replaced. They're becoming like AI overseers.
Exactly. Ensuring accuracy, ethical application. It's about collaboration, not replacement.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like empowering them to use AI as a tool.
And then on the data front, you've got groups like MIT's Algorithmic Justice League pushing for more diverse medical data sets.
That's so important to combat bias in those algorithms.
Absolutely, because if the AI is trained on biased data, it's going to lead to biased outcomes.
And that could have serious consequences in healthcare.
Absolutely. And this idea of AI as a powerful tool, but one that needs careful guidance.
Yeah.
It's not just limited to healthcare either.
Right. Where else are we seeing this play out?
Well, manufacturing is a big one. The rise of the lights out factory.
Lights out factory. What is that exactly? It sounds kind of ominous.
It does, doesn't it? Basically, it means AI is playing a dominant role in operations.
So like, are there even people working in these factories?
Well, yeah, it's not completely devoid of humans. But think of companies like Siemens. They're using AI to predict equipment failures.
Interesting. To like prevent downtime.
Exactly. They've reduced downtime by something like 30%.
Wow. That's got to save them a ton of money.
Huge cost savings and increased efficiency. It's like giving the machines a sixth sense about when they need maintenance.
Okay. I can see the appeal from a business perspective.
Yeah.
But what about the workers?
That's the big question, right? The Brookings Institution reported that the U.S. has lost 1.7 million manufacturing jobs to automation since 2000.
Wow. So it's a real concern.
Absolutely. It's a trend we can't ignore.
So what can be done? How do we prepare people for this shift?
Well, reskilling is key. Germany's Industry 4.0 initiative is a good example. They're training factory workers in robotics and data analysis.
So giving them the skills to work alongside the AI.
Exactly, equipping them for these new tech-driven roles.
So it's about adapting.
Right.
Right. Acquiring new skills that complement AI.
And some countries are exploring even more radical solutions, like Finland's experimenting with universal basic income.
Wow. As a safety net for workers displaced by automation.
It's a bold idea, but it reflects the understanding that this technological revolution requires societal adjustments.
It's fascinating to see how different countries are approaching this. It's like a global experiment.
It really is. But it's not just factories that are changing. Retail is undergoing a major transformation, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about Amazon Go stores. You walk in, grab what you need, and walk out. No cashier, no checkout lines.
That's pretty wild, isn't it? AI is making it all possible.
Well, what about the jobs? Like, are we going to see a retail apocalypse, as some people are calling it?
Well, it's a valid concern. But it's not just about cashierless stores. Walmart, for example, is using AI for dynamic pricing.
So those price fluctuations aren't just random.
Nope. There's an algorithm behind it, adjusting prices in real time based on all sorts of factors.
That's kind of unsettling, to be honest. Like, who's really in control here?
Yeah, and then there's the whole data privacy issue. Consumers are becoming more aware of how much data is being collected and used.
Right. It's like we're trading convenience for privacy.
And finding that balance is crucial.
So are there any companies doing it right?
Well, Best Buy is interesting. They're integrating AI for online efficiency, but still maintaining human expertise in their stores.
So they're not going completely automated.
Exactly. They're trying to provide that personalized touch that many customers still value.
That's good to hear. It's a reminder that AI doesn't have to mean a completely impersonal experience.
And you've got regulations like California's Consumer Privacy Act pushing for more transparency in how retailers use AI and data.
So giving consumers more control over their information.
Exactly. It's a step in the right direction.
It feels like we're still figuring out how to integrate AI ethically and responsibly into our lives.
It's a learning process for sure.
Well, let's shift gears now and talk about finance. AI is making waves there too.
Oh yeah, it's big time. MasterCard, for example, is using AI to combat fraud.
Really?
Yeah, they're preventing billions of dollars in fraudulent transactions every year.
That's impressive.
Oh.
But what about the potential downsides? I've heard concerns about algorithmic bias in lending.
You're right, that's a serious issue. The Apple Card algorithm offering women lower credit limits than men, even with similar financial profiles, brought this to light.
That was a big wake-up call.
It was. It highlighted the need for fairness and accountability in these AI systems.
Especially in finance. It has such a huge impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. But there are some positive developments, too. Companies like Zest Finance are developing fairness toolkits to identify and mitigate bias in lending algorithms.
So trying to ensure that AI is used fairly.
Exactly. And we're seeing a trend towards human-AI hybrid roles in finance. Well, financial professionals are using AI tools for more complex tasks, like client negotiations, for example.
So it's about augmenting human expertise.
Right. Not replacing it. It's about finding that sweet spot where human judgment and intuition combine with AI's analytical power.
It sounds like the financial sector is actively seeking solutions to ensure AI is used responsibly.
Yeah, I think there's a growing awareness of the potential pitfalls and a commitment to addressing them.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, I want to talk about something that seems a bit counterintuitive, AI in the creative industries.
It's mind-blowing, right? AI is making its presence felt in art, music, even writing.
It's like science fiction becoming reality. What are some of the craziest things you've seen?
We've got tools like ChatGPT that can write blog posts and articles that are indistinguishable from human-written content.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and then there's DALL-E 2, which can generate incredibly realistic images from text prompts.
It's like AI is becoming a creator itself.
It's both fascinating and a little bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, are we going to see AI replacing human artists, writers, musicians?
The 2023 Hollywood writers' strike was fueled by those fears. They were worried about AI taking over creative jobs in filmmaking.
So it's a real concern.
It is. And then there's the whole question of copyright and ownership. Who owns the rights to AI-generated art or music?
Right. It's like we're entering uncharted territory. The legal and ethical frameworks are struggling to keep up with the pace of technology.
It's a constant game of catch-up.
So are there any solutions on the horizon?
Well, the EU's AI Act is a step in the right direction. It requires companies to disclose the sources of their training data and compensate creators if their work is used.
So trying to establish some ground rules.
Exactly. And then you've got companies like Adobe taking a more collaborative approach. Their Firefly platform is positioned as a tool to augment human creativity.
So not replace it, but enhance it.
Right. It's about giving artists new tools and possibilities.
That's a much more optimistic perspective.
It is. It's about embracing the potential of AI while also addressing the challenges thoughtfully.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from healthcare to finance to creative fields. It's clear that AI is reshaping industries in profound ways.
It's a technological revolution that's raising big questions about the future of work ethics and even what it means to be human.
It's a lot to think about. But it's also incredibly exciting to be living through this transformative period.
It is. And in part 2 of this deep dive, we'll delve even deeper into the implications of AI, exploring potential solutions and discussing how we can ensure this revolution benefits all of humanity.
Looking forward to it. I think our listeners are in for a fascinating discussion.
So we've seen how AI is really making its mark across different sectors, from automating tasks to actually augmenting human capabilities. But as we move forward, I think the question becomes, how do we ensure that this technological revolution that we're talking about actually leads to a better future for everyone?
That's really the key question, isn't it? It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we use it, how we adapt to it, and how we shape its trajectory to actually benefit society as a whole.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's so crucial to really focus on 4 key areas: reskilling, ethical considerations, human-AI symbiosis, and then global governance.
Okay, let's unpack those one by one, starting with reskilling. We've talked about the potential for job displacement. So how do we equip people with the skills they need to thrive in this AI-driven world?
It really starts with, I think, a shift in mindset. We need to view reskilling not just as an individual responsibility, but as a collective imperative.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, for starters, companies need to invest in their workforce. Governments need to prioritize education and training programs that focus on AI literacy and digital skills.
So it's a shared responsibility, not just on the individual to figure it out.
Exactly. It's a collaborative effort to make sure people aren't left behind as technology advances.
Are there any companies doing this well? Like setting a good example?
Yeah, actually, there are Amazon's Upskilling 2025 program, for example. They've committed over $1 billion to train workers in areas like cloud computing and AI.
Wow, that's a serious investment.
It is. And then you've got Google's career certificates. They offer affordable AI-focused courses for displaced workers, giving them valuable credentials to pursue new career paths.
It's like we're entering a new era of lifelong learning, where acquiring new skills is an ongoing process.
Exactly. The traditional model of education followed by a linear career path is becoming increasingly outdated.
So we need to embrace adaptability and continuous learning.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to ethical considerations, AI raises so many questions about bias, privacy, accountability. How do we ensure that this technology is developed and used responsibly?
Yeah, that's a big one. It's almost like AI is a double-edged sword. It has the potential for so much good,
Yeah.
but it could also be misused.
Exactly. So transparency is key. We need clear guidelines and regulations that promote ethical AI development.
So like what kind of guidelines are we talking about?
Well, one idea that's gaining traction is the concept of nutrition labels for AI systems.
Nutrition labels for AI.
Yeah. It sounds strange, but basically it means providing detailed information about the AI system. Like, the training data use the decision-making logic potential biases.
So making the inner workings of AI more transparent.
Exactly. It's about accountability, making sure that these systems are used fairly and ethically.
And what about bias? How do we prevent AI from perpetuating existing inequalities?
Well, there's a growing movement towards developing fairness toolkits to identify and mitigate bias in algorithms.
So basically building safeguards into the technology itself.
Right, because AI systems can inherit and amplify existing biases if we're not careful.
So it's about making sure that AI reflects our values, promotes equity, rather than perpetuating inequalities.
Exactly. And this leads us to the idea of human-AI symbiosis.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between human expertise and AI capabilities.
Like leveraging the strengths of each.
Exactly. We've seen examples of this already, like nurses using AI to handle administrative tasks, freeing up their time for patient care.
So AI augmenting human capabilities, not replacing them.
Right. And in journalism, AI tools can help with research and data analysis. But ultimately, human journalists retain editorial control.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where human judgment and creativity combine with AI's analytical power.
Exactly. Now, the last point, global governance. This suggests that this is not just a national issue, but something that requires international cooperation.
Why is that so important?
While AI is a global phenomenon, its development and deployment transcend national borders. To ensure that it's used ethically and responsibly, we need international collaboration.
It makes sense. We're all interconnected in this digital age.
Yeah.
So what are some concrete steps that can be taken on a global scale?
There have been calls for a UN AI advisory body to establish global standards for ethical AI development. And organizations like the OECD are working on frameworks for responsible AI governance.
So fostering dialogue, sharing best practices, working together to address the challenges and opportunities of AI.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that this is a global issue that requires a global response.
It's encouraging to see these efforts underway. But it's also clear that we're still in the early stages of navigating this complex landscape.
We are. It's a journey, and we're all learning as we go. But I think by focusing on reskilling ethical considerations, human-AI symbiosis, and global governance, we can create a future where AI benefits all of humanity.
It's a vision worth striving for, a future where technology empowers us, connects us, and helps us create a more just and sustainable world. But there's another layer to this conversation, isn't there? AI is not just changing our world. It's challenging our understanding of what it means to be human.
You're absolutely right. And that's what we'll explore in part 3 of this deep dive. We'll delve into the philosophical questions that AI raises, pondering the nature of consciousness, creativity, and the very essence of humanity in this age of intelligent machines.
I'm looking forward to that. It feels like we're on the verge of a new era, a time of profound transformation. And it's both exciting and a little bit daunting. So we've talked about, the real-world impacts of AI in all these different industries. And we've discussed, the need for responsible development and ethical guidelines and all that. But now I kind of want to shift gears a bit and dive into some of the bigger philosophical questions that AI brings up.
Yeah.
It's almost like AI is forcing us to confront what it means to be human.
Yeah, it really is. It's like all these existential questions are bubbling up to the surface now.
Exactly. Like we've talked about AI creating art and music and even writing.
Yeah.
But if a machine can create something beautiful or moving, does that make it creative in the same way that a human artist is?
It's a tough question, right? Like, what even is creativity? Philosophers have been debating that for centuries, and now AI is making us rethink our whole understanding of it.
Yeah, because some people might say that if you can't tell the difference between AI-generated art and human-generated art, then does it even matter how it was made?
Right. Like, is the output all that matters? Or is there something special about the human creative process?
It's like the definition of creativity is becoming more fluid, more open to interpretation.
Exactly. And it's not just creativity either. AI is also raising questions about the nature of intelligence itself.
Like, what does it even mean to be intelligent?
Right. We've traditionally defined intelligence based on human capabilities, but AI is showing us that intelligence can manifest in many different ways.
Yeah, we're seeing machines do things that we used to think only humans could do, like playing games, solving problems, even having conversations that feel almost human.
And that leads to another question. At what point does artificial intelligence become something more than just a tool? Like, at what point does it become its own distinct form of intelligence? Maybe even worthy of our respect or moral consideration.
It's a pretty mind-blowing thought, right?
Yeah.
Like, are we creating something that could eventually surpass us in intelligence?
It's a possibility we have to consider. And it brings us to the realm of ethics. Like, if we create AI systems that can learn and adapt and maybe even experience the world in ways similar to humans, do we owe them any ethical obligations?
It's uncharted territory, ethically speaking. It's like we're writing the rule book as we go.
We are. And it's not just about AI's potential for sentience or consciousness either. It's also about how AI is impacting our own sense of identity. What does it mean to be human in a world where machines can do so many of the things we used to define ourselves by?
It's almost like AI is holding up a mirror to us,
Yeah.
making us confront not just our capabilities, but also our limitations.
Exactly. And I think that's a good thing. This period of reflection and questioning is important. It's a chance for us to reevaluate our values, our priorities, and our place in the universe.
AI is not just a technological revolution. It's a cultural, societal, and philosophical revolution.
It really is. And it's happening all around us right now.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay curious, to stay engaged, and to participate in this conversation. The future of AI is not set in stone. It's being shaped right now by the choices we make, the questions we ask, and the actions we take.
So let's make sure we're shaping it in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Absolutely.
Right.
Let's create an AI-powered future that is both innovative and humane.
Well said. I think that's a great place to wrap up this deep dive. It's been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the History of AI podcast. Remember, we're writing this history together right here, right now.